But one of the reasons this is so full of energy and heart right now is because Melanie Clark stood up and said, hell no, that is not going to happen. We have all been working for such a long time to see an intelligent, environmentally sound transit and transportation future for Santa Cruz County. And we have put one foot in front of the other for years, doing the right thing. And now comes Measure D, which, to put it mildly, and you will hear from others, is not the right thing. It is a proposal which has one solution, widening highways, has no solution about intercity rail, which is what many of us fought for in several previous elections. So thank you so much for being here. You will hear from folks who will talk about that and will be inspiring in the process. I want to acknowledge a couple of elected officials who are here this evening.
I am really excited to introduce our first speaker because I used to take transit all the way from Watsonville to Berkeley, which was quite a trek, and it stopped at the station that is named after this person. So you might guess who I'm going to introduce. But Rod Diridon is widely known as the father of the Silicon Valley's light rail system. Rod led the years-long effort to imagine, plan, fund, and build the rail system that moves hundreds of thousands of people each day to move safely and efficiently to jobs, college, and other important locations. That I was one of those people. After 24 years on the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors leading transit and transportation projects, Rod was appointed the executive director of the Norman Mineta Transportation Policy Institute at San Jose State University. From 1994 through 2014, Rod directed the Institute's assistance for many rail and transit projects throughout the United States. Rod's decades-long public service, especially in mass transit, the Multimodal Transit Center in downtown San Jose was named Rod Diridon Station. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce a friend of rail transit everywhere, the Honorable Rod Diridon Sr.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. I'll apologize one time, but I'll cough at you from time to time. I've got one vocal cord, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You see this map down here? This is what we're talking about. This is the high-speed rail system and the rail network for the region. This feeds into it. It connects you with the rail network for the state of California if you've got the courage to maintain that connection. When I was first elected, Brad actually worked on that first campaign a while, and then he got on the Board of Supervisors. He really helped lead what Supervisor Leopold later carried to success, and that was the retention of that rail line. Fred recognized that no amount of dirt exists in Santa Cruz County to pave to be able to handle the future traffic you're going to have. If you want a 10-lane freeway on Highway 1, you still won't have enough lanes to handle the traffic, but you will have a terrible, dirty cut, and you will have the perpetuation of single-passenger vehicles. And although we're converting to electric quickly, we're going to have gasoline-powered vehicles for the next 30 years, some amount. So they're going to be out there if you give them roads to drive on. If you don't expand those systems, the people that are currently on those long parking lots during commute hours are going to be encouraged to the point of being forced to use another mode of transportation. And you had better create one by then, or the area will founder. So you have only a few years. You have only 10 years, rough estimate, to do two things. One is to create an alternative to your highway systems because they're not going to work. And that alternative better be electrically powered, and it better carry a lot of people efficiently. And there's no reason in the world why you wouldn't use the currently existing rail corridor from Davenport down to Watsonville. Allow that to become a feeder system into high-speed rail, Caltrain commuter rail, and from there into BART and the Capital trains and the Altamont Express and the light rail system in downtown San Jose. Woo! All seamlessly. And you did the progressive thing at that time. You protected that corridor. You did the studies that are necessary for you to obtain the funding. And you have money in the bank at the state level, and you have money in the bank at the federal, a lot of money in the bank at the federal level now with the adoption of the infrastructure bill under President Biden last year. $1.4 trillion was created using your tax dollars to go into an infrastructure bill that is going to be sent out now to areas that are ready for construction. You are one of the only ones in the United States that have done the studies and would allow you to go into construction quickly if you would decide to.
Yeah, let's do it.
Now, those people that would say, but it's going to cost too much, want to give their money that they paid in those taxes back to the federal government, back to the state government, so that they can build transportation systems in other areas. Because they have to go to rail construction, and if you give up here, you won't qualify, and you'll lose those tax dollars. Is that penny wise and pound foolish?
Yep.
And let me tell you, anybody that suggests that you're going to do rail banking is telling you a flat-out lie. It does not occur. It's been the anti-transit people, oftentimes funded by petroleum interest, I don't know what it is here, but oftentimes funded by the petroleum interests, go into a rail area that could go into commuter rail. They get the local community excited about bikes, and they tear up the rail, build a bike path, which eventually is turned into a highway, by the way.
Yep.
And you lose the opportunity of ever building a rail system in that corridor. You deserve a modern transit system, interconnected, electrically powered, with stations and focusing your growth, and your growth is going to occur, focusing the growth around those stations and parking, rather than sprawling that growth out into the hillsides and losing your last open space. Tell truth to power, and get them to make the right decisions. That commission needs to reverse itself. One last thought. In 2018, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change of the United Nations, consisting of 72 Nobel laureates and many other scientists, came forward with a study that said if we didn't change our ways and begin using only electric-powered transportation and other devices to move away from any kind of carbon combustion, if we didn't change our ways within the next 12 years, the worst aspects of climate change were going to be irreversible. I've got 4 grandbabies. They don't deserve to inherit an Earth that is fried from us being committed to and addicted to petroleum.
Yeah.
This is where you stand up to that influence and win the battle for my grandchildren.
A lot of Spartans around here right now, so I too pass through the Diridon station on my way to teach at San Jose State. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing now Carl Guardino. Carl has been a public transportation and transit leader for decades in California. Carl has been appointed and reappointed to the California Transportation Commission by 3 consecutive governors to 4-year terms. Presently, Carl is the vice chair of the California Transportation Commission. Carl has been the leader of several regional and statewide voter-approved bond measures, providing billions of dollars for public transportation and transit projects, as well as affordable housing. And we notice that too around here. We appreciate your work. And now I'm going to go through all of these here. In 1996, 2000, 2008, 2016, and 2018, in each of those years, Carl led successful ballot measures that are providing revenue for miles and miles of congestion relief and intercity rail projects. His leadership in the transit and rail space has been recognized by many, among them the San Jose Mercury News as one of Silicon Valley's 5 most powerful leaders. All right. Yes, we are in good company here. At the California Transportation Commission, Carl keeps a close eye on Santa Cruz County's transportation and rail needs and has been a champion for our local needs. It is an honor to present to you our good friend, Carl Guardino. Thank you.
Sandy, thank you so much, and what a pleasure it is to be here. Fred, Keeley, thank you for opening up your beautiful home. Guess, let's trash the place. We won't do that. And it was during that experience that one of the best decisions I ever made as Chief Assistant to Rusty Arrayas was to hire Gail Pellery. Is Gail still here?
I think she had to
an
leave.
Event to go to.
She's running for office.
This was the event she needed to be at. But what a wonderful, wonderful person and friend to this day. And Richard Katz, when I had the pleasure of working for Assemblyman Rusty Arrayas, was chair of the powerful Assembly Transportation Committee. And if you've ever been frustrated like I am when you are in a car and someone blocks the interchange when the light is the wrong color, it was Richard Katz who sponsored and passed the legislation to make that against the law, and I often cite that, and thank you for trying to get people not to do that. And Rod Diridon Sr., what a mentor and friend for more than 40 years, who has led the way on all things transit and transportation related for our region, our state, and our nation. It's an honor to be on any stage with you. I want to share for just a couple of moments the magic of "and" with just 3 quick points. State and local. Trail and rail. The present and the future. I'll start with state and local. It was 2010. As you kindly mentioned, I've had the pleasure of serving on the California Transportation Commission for 15 plus years now. 4 terms, 3 different governors from 2 different political parties. First appointed on Valentine's Day in 2007 because transportation has always been a labor of love for me. And it was in 2010 when we, as a commission, unanimously approved Proposition 116 funds for this 32-mile rail and trail corridor. Your state, through your California Transportation Commission, believes in this effort. And my dear friend Jim Gilmetti, who was on the commission at that time, made it clear from the dais. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but I don't want to be fooled later that this just becomes trail and is not rail and trail. We trusted you and entrusted those hard-earned state taxpayer dollars to you on that promise and that premise. And then in 2016 with Measure D, when I had the pleasure of still at that time serving as CEO of the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, I was running a countywide transportation initiative in Santa Clara County, Measure B, and asked my dear friend, who was on my team at the leadership group at the time, Casey Beyer, to invest and volunteer his time on Measure D in the community he lived in and loved here in Santa Cruz County. And that, too, was an and ballot measure of roads and transit, rail and active transportation. That's what you promised your voters, and a word that you are committed to keeping. The second is trail and rail. What I brought tonight, until COVID made my office my living room for 2 decades, my form of transit for my commute, 17 miles each way each day, was on my bicycle. So when people talk about bicycle trails, there is no firmer advocate who peddled what he preached for nearly 2 decades about the importance of bicycle trails. But it's an and, as you know, that we also need to ensure that we have transit in all of its forms to accompany active transportation. You are working to keep that commitment, and I applaud you for it. And then finally, the present and the future. As you kindly mentioned, I've had the pleasure of leading transportation funding measures, almost all requiring a 2/3 vote for a TAX in 1996, 2000, 2008, 2016, 2018, and 2020, with Measure RR, a 3-county measure for Caltrain commuter rail service. And in all of those, it was to build for the present and the future. But the real future that drives me here tonight, that transports me here tonight, is Roaring Camp. Yes. Because I have a 5-year-old son, Jacob. Jake to his friends, that there's a photo on my phone of him climbing on Thomas the train. And he will never forgive me if that is taken away. Because he, like Rod Diridon Sr.'s 4 grandchildren, are the future that we are fighting for through this effort on June 7th. And being successful at the ballot also means being successful to build community in the process. Because while others may try to tear it down through divisive politics, that's not what we do. Because we know there will be a June 8th when we continue to build rail and trail while also rebuilding a community, and only being able to do that by the way we conduct ourselves over the next 67 days. So thank you for letting me join you. Don't get too close to these shoes. They don't
Thank you so much. This next person I just met this afternoon, and from what I can tell, he has a very great sense of humor because I almost choked on my water because he made me laugh so hard. Richard Katz represented the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles County in the California State Assembly for 16 years. During his service in the Assembly, Richard served as chair of the Assembly Committee on Transportation. In that capacity, Richard led historic efforts to increase funding for all elements of California's complex transportation and transit systems. A great friend of our community, Richard included millions of dollars in a voter-approved bond measure that assisted the purchase of the 32-mile rail line in Santa Cruz County. Woo! After his service in the Assembly, Richard was appointed by the Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa to the Board of Directors of the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Commission. Richard's leadership on the Metro Board focused on increasing Los Angeles' intercity commuter rail system. Please join me in welcoming and thanking the Honorable Richard Katz.
Vanessa, thank you so much, and thank all of you for being here. And Fred, thank you for letting me think I had a choice about whether or not to be here. But it's great to be here with a lot of friends and a lot of people all committed to making sure that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. I wanted to say that Rod, who is an example for everyone to follow, that when I got on the board in LA, I was just trying to catch up to you. And we have so far to go to catch up to what you've done up here all these years. We're going to need all of Carl's ballot measures to get there. But you really show that people do make a difference, and leadership makes a difference, and standing up makes a difference. And that's what's so important about where we find ourselves right now. As was mentioned earlier, when I authored Prop 116, Fred and others, Sam Farr, a lot of people that made it really clear that this was a priority and it had to be in there, and that the measure could pass or fail based on the votes that came out of the county here. So it was an important inclusion, not just politically, but because it was a statement of the future. And it was a statement that we can do things better, we can learn from our mistakes, despite all evidence to the contrary, that we can have a better, whether it's for your 4 grandkids, your son, or my 15-year-old son, we got to do things better because it's not fair to them. So we took on that fight, and we've all taken it on, and I can't imagine the frustration with the number of times you have gone to the ballot to reinforce the commitment that was made in the beginning. Commitments used to mean something, and just like people's words used to mean something, and trying to follow through on those commitments was the hallmark of, frankly, a civilized society. And unfortunately, we've gotten away from that. Sound bites and one-liners and snappy comebacks and trashing people on social media has replaced discourse, has replaced a commonality of interest, has replaced the ands that we were talking about earlier, the ability to move forward and make progress. And so we find ourselves here again at one of those crossroads. And you've been here before, you have been successful before, but this is serious. It's a consensus because the community came together and said, rail and trail are our priorities. Electrification of rail, intercity commute is a priority because that's the kind of community we all want to live in. And just because somebody shows up with a big bank and a whole lot of whatever doesn't mean that we're all going to go away or forget what we fought for or forget why we did it. And you're being here today, the work Fred has dedicated his life to, along with all of you, is really on the line in some ways. Because once the money's gone, it's gone. I mean, you talk about, rail bank, the bank, money is gone, never to come again. I think, Rod, we were talking earlier, we're trying to remember the last time we heard of a rail project coming out of a rail bank. And that's really hard to find. I think there may be 1 or 2 maybe in the country. It's a smokescreen. One of the things we learn, we have to sometimes keep learning, but when the petroleum industry and their friends say something is green, odds are they're stretching that definition just a little bit. you know, and greenwashing, whatever you want to call it. And yet, here we are, facing this Greenway, which I have asked a bunch of people here tonight to explain to me what it means. And apparently it's a very closely guarded secret. Maybe only one person knows. But somehow we're being asked now to undo 25 years of work. Three elections, Fred?
Yes.
3 elections, countless votes at the commission, and just wipe that all out for a project that nobody knows what it is. I mean, there's no there. And so it's really important. I don't have to, you know, I'm from Southern California. I'm going to explain mass transit to you guys. Come on. Now, we've done a lot better at the MTA in the last 10, 15 years, and we're building one of the most complicated and complex systems in the world and putting a boatload of people to work at the same time, which is the other benefit that people forget. You know, high-paying, good union jobs, the construction industry, the rail industry, it's got them all. And, you know, it's a win on so many benefits. You put people to work. You green the economy. You cut down on air pollution. You cut down on, you know, on particulate matter that can kill us. I mean, all the good things that we're supposed to all be doing and have all been fighting for. And one more time, this is a fight for the future, for all of us, for our kids, for our grandkids. It's a fight that has to be won, because if you can't win that fight here, where are we going to win it? I mean, and you have to hold to that principle that was negotiated when this was put together. We've got to make sure people maintain and respect and honor those commitments and all of the sacrifices that all of you and so many others have made to get us to this point. We've got to make sure that Greenway goes bye-bye. Maybe they park it in a bank somewhere and figure out what it is. But I know you're going to do it, and I'm looking forward to coming back and riding that train with you. I'm looking forward to seeing that day when we can all get on. Where's the gentleman with the engineer's hat? There it is. We all get those. That will be a collector's item. The one you've got's a collector's item, but I'm looking forward to seeing those hats again when we dedicate on the first ride on that train. And I look forward to being there with all of you. Thank you.
You know, we're here, we have a shared vision, and it's a positive vision for our future. And we are also here to defeat an initiative that doesn't share that vision, created by people who, but I can tell you, it's about private gain, not about public benefit. And we are here because we believe that the public should benefit, and our transportation infrastructure is so critical. The Honorable Fred Keeley is going to give you a little incentive to help support this campaign in every way.
Thank you, Sandy Brown. Thank you, Vanessa, Carl, Rod Diridon, Richard Katz. Thank you all very much. We appreciate their presence here today. We appreciate this kind of leadership from elected officials all over the state. We're doing the right thing here. We're doing the right thing because we will not be deceived. We will not be deceived. This is a tricky idea. There's something that doesn't smell right about this idea. It is neither green nor is it the way. It is a deception. It is an attempt to try to take people who maybe weren't here during these fights.
That's right.
Folks who maybe pay a little bit of attention but got busy lives, and Greenway sounds like a grand thing. In this community, Greenway, those are magic words. Our job is to make sure that people understand it is not green, it is not the way, it is a deception. It is dishonest. The politics in the United States of America at this moment in time need to be about truth, about honesty, about integrity. That's what our politics needs to be about. We cannot let our politics become the politics of lies and deception. And if you just say it enough times and you got enough money that you made in the Silicon Valley, you can trick people into believing that their best interest is something called Greenway. It is not your best interest. Our best interest is to stay on track. For us to stay on track. We were promised a trail and a rail, not just one. And if you take the rail out of this proposition, you are saying then what we're all for is highway widening is our one and only strategy going forward. No, that is not our strategy going forward. Our strategy is a rail and a trail. And I know that you're here because you believe that as well. Sandy, Vanessa, Carl, Rod Diridon, and my good buddy Richard Katz. God love you all. Thank you very much. Let's go on to victory in June.
Santa Cruz branch rail line now departing Watsonville Station through La Selva Beach, Aptos, Capitola, Live Oak, Santa Cruz, and Davenport. Well, the Santa Cruz line is a mighty fine line. Santa Cruz line is a rail to ride. Santa Cruz line is our very own line. Very soon you will be riding up and down the coast. You'll find it. Get your ticket at the station for the Santa Cruz line. By the great Pacific Ocean, all along North Monterey Bay, Watsonville and Santa Cruz, Davenport all the way. Ride the prettiest railroad line ever come our way. Rambling up and down the coast starting Saturday. 'Cause this railroad's your line. This rail is my line. From the Pajaro Valley through Santa Cruz County, from the Redwood Forest along the sparkling waters, singing this line belongs to you and me. Yeah, this line belongs to you and me. All aboard!
Very, very good. So coming up.